quick. I've probably only got a few minutes before my daughter realizes that I've borrowed her pride and joy, and she'll burst in to reclaim it. My daughter is now 12, but a few years ago she was invited to be part of a music school. It's great what's on offer in Leeds. The only downside was that they encouraged all of these young budding musicians to choose their own instrument. So out came my daughter with an instrument bigger than she was. Thank goodness we have an estate car so it fits. But actually, it's been a real blessing. She's great at it. I can't play anything at all, so this is simply a visual aid. The only thing I can do musically, and it's not really musical, is ring church bells, and I've not done that properly for years either. But I wanted to use this as an illustration because it's a versatile instrument and, like many instruments, can be used to play music that reflects a whole range of human emotions. And as we look at the book of Zephaniah, even though it's only 3 chapters long, there is a whole range of emotions there in that book. For me, Zephaniah is almost like a prophetic book in miniature. It's got all of the major features in just 3 chapters. Chapter 1 is a warning to Israel. It's in the late 7th century, so around it's before the reforms of Josiah in 621. Josiah was one of the very few good kings of the southern kingdom who instituted a whole load of reforms to bring things back into line. But Zephaniah is before Josiah and warns the nation of Israel of their need to repent and to turn back to God, else they will lose all of the gifts of grace that he has given to them. The land, his very presence, what it means to be his chosen people, all of it will be removed. Chapter 2 is a warning to all of the surrounding nations. We've got used to those warnings. They've been in many of the books that we've looked at. And then chapter 3 begins with a return to that theme of judgment that will fall on that southern kingdom, on Judah, and specifically on the city of Jerusalem. But then in between verses 7 and 8 of chapter 3, there is a change that comes out of nowhere. Instead of judgment, we get a promise of restoration. Instead of warnings, we get words of beautiful redemption, of rebuilding, of reconciliation, of making all things new. The first couple of chapters are what we've come to expect, displays of God's reality, of the fact that he is sovereign, of the fact that ultimate power lies with him, and that he will make all things new. And where there is injustice and oppression, it will be turned to dust, it will be turned upside down. But God is also a God who is faithful to his people, faithful to all that he has made, and begins this task of rebuilding. So the early chapters are all harsh and melancholic and judgment. But then the second half of the third chapter is these beautiful notes of restoration and of rebuilding. In what is it, verse 7 of chapter 1, the people are told to be silent, to stand in awe because of who God is and what he is able to do. That's changed by the time we get to verse 17 of chapter 3, where we see God singing, making melody, calling forth new creation for his people as he sings over them. Listen to this. The Lord your God is in your midst, a warrior who gives victory. So, what do you think is going to come out of his mouth? Well, here it comes. He will rejoice over you with gladness, he will renew you in his love. He will exult over you with loud singing, as on a day of festival. I wonder what that song sounds like. God, the creator of heaven and earth, singing with delight and tenderness over his people. It's a beautiful image of a new creation, isn't it? This God who spoke the original creation into being through words, now redeems and renews and restores through words again, but the words of a song, calling back together the people and reconstituting them through the words of and through the melody of a song. So Zephaniah gives us clear warnings of judgment for the people of God and for the surrounding nations, but also gives this amazing promise of hope. Sounds a completely different note. A new song is being sung as God makes all things new and restores his people.